America, when the collapse happens, when World War III happens, will be the worst place on earth to be. I know you all don't think so. A lot of you guys are pro-American. I'm not mad at you. You have a right to feel the way you want to feel. But this is not a homogeneous society, and there's a lot of tension here. And it only can get worse. Only can get worse, as we have seen.
All right, I want to start this lesson off by giving all glory, honor, and thanks to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son. That's Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash, as well as the double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone, and to the rest of the elders in Akim around the globe, bringing this word out within sincerity, truth, and diligence. And this is basically, this lesson's on a dream I had last night. I was walking around New York City, and I know it was Manhattan because I looked up and I saw a skyscraper similar to this, and I was just walking around, and New York was still in its mirthful state. But through the spirit, I was thinking to myself in this vision that when Jacob's trouble pops off, this place gonna be scary. This place gonna be terrifying when the mirth ceases in the cities, places like New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, all these major cities, but especially New York City, how congested it is. You got subways, alleyways. It's gonna be a scary place to be. And that you heard that was Black Ram 313. I did a lesson on this a couple months ago or last month about this. You know how America is going to be one of the most terrifying places, or not one of the most terrifying place on the earth when it financially collapses. And really the only thing that's stopping that is the fake little fiat currency financial system that it's still running off of, in a police force. You take those two out, and then a lack of food, a food shortage, a water shortage, and this place will turn ugly. So let's get this in Joel, the second chapter, 2:28. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. And that's what I had last night. It was a vision of Jacob's trouble. And it was a vision of what Jacob's trouble is going to be like, because it wasn't necessarily a vision of Jacob's trouble, but in the dream, America was still in a mirthful state. And through the spirit, I was thinking how bad Jacob's trouble is going to be, especially in these major cities such as New York City. Jeremiah 30 verse 7, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Who's Jacob? So-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And who's he that shall be saved out of it? The elect. The 1/3 of the Lord that have turned back and repented, and that the Lord's dealing with. 2/3 of our people are going to be cut down by the sword. So let's get a couple more. Let's go to Isaiah 24 verse 8 through 12. The mirth of the tabret ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down. And that city of confusion is the United States, America, Babylon the Great. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. And that's also pursuant to 2nd Esdras, I believe 15th or 16th chapter, where it speaks that a man shall desire to go into a city and not be able to, that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. The city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. And that's all I could, think of throughout this vision, was that when this place shuts down and there's a food shortage, a lack of police, there's no jobs, and you got, these homeless, these gangs, these drug addicts, criminals, prisoners released out in cities like New York and etc. This place is going to be completely terrifying out here. It's going to be all out hell. And a lot of people forget that through the Spirit, we went on it today in the Servants of Yahweh Shai camp in Las Vegas. Basically, how during the crack epidemic, the 80s and 90s, how bad it was in the Jake neighborhoods during that time. But pretty soon, every part of Babylon the Great America is going to look like the crack epidemic and the high rates of crime times 10, you know? So let's get another one in 2nd Ezra, starting at chapter 15 and starting at verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. And whether you want to believe it or not, that day is rapidly approaching to the shores of Babylon the Great America. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 3, and this is speaking on a lack of jobs, because when the economy slows down, there's lack of jobs. Now that's going to affect the truck drivers. Now they're not going to be able to deliver goods as much to these supermarkets. That's going to kick in a famine, and famine is going to lead to crime, because you got niggas that kill over Jordans and shoes and petty shit. How much more violent is the streets of America gonna get when there's no food or water on the shelves? And we've seen a precursor of that to a lot of those Walmart closers in Chicago. They just ransacked it and looted it. They took everything because they knew they were closing anyway. And that's what's going to happen everywhere. It's going to be madness out here. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few. Talking about the people working. And those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. And we saw a precursor to that in 2020. That was the first year I lived out here in Las Vegas, and the whole strip was shut down. It was darkened, and it was quiet. It was eerie in the streets, you know. So that can and will happen again, except this time it's going to be much worse. And when that happens, the so-called Negroes, they're going to be, you know, because we're the ones, if you go to Genesis, the 49th chapter, we're the ones that are directly under this devil, under this oppressor, Esau, Edom, so-called white man. And that's why our neighborhoods look like how they are, because that's under the oppression of the white man. And they are violent places to be in America. Some of the most, all of the majority of the most violent cities in America, Judah's dwelling in deep in. So this is Isaiah 19, verse 15, and back to speaking on the lack of work and the grinding being low. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. In that day shall Egypt be like unto women, and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord of hosts, which he shaketh over it. And the land of Judah shall be a terror unto Egypt. Every one that maketh mention thereof shall be afraid in himself, because of the counsel of the Lord of hosts, which he hath determined against it. And, you know, Judah's neighborhoods are already lacking resources. So when it gets ugly, what's the only option? It's going to go to these heathen neighborhoods. And majority of these heathens, because a lot of the heathens pursuing to, I believe, Isaiah 13:14, are going to go back to their land. But the heathens that are left and still have resources,
Judah's gonna get it popping, and it's life. If it's life or death over a piece of bread, what do you think gonna happen? And I remember in this vision thinking that, man, when cities like this, especially New York, when this place collapses, and the men that survive Jacob's trouble and make it through, they really will be the chosen men of the Lord, because look how it's set up to be complete chaos out here. So the Lord got to be dealing with you to survive in that day. And this speaks on this in 2nd Esdras 16, starting at verse 73. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. And one movie you can relate that to is the Book of Eli. That man was blind, but he was going through all types of tribulations and challenges, and the Lord was dealing with him, and his enemies, his ops, couldn't knock him out, because if the Lord be with you, who shall be against you? But this is just a quick little vision I had. Shalom.